I was 21 when I discovered that the world is capable of applauding you for your appearance and still hating you for what you feel. I was young, beautiful, the daughter of nobility, raised to smile the right way, sit the right way, speak the right way. Everything about me was prepared to represent an impeccable life, and for a long time I believed that was freedom. In truth, it was only a prison with expensive perfume. My home was always too large to be comforting. It was a place where everything shone but nothing warmed, a place where the word family was more a concept than an experience. My father ran everything with the same firmness with which he commanded the servants, the business, the guests, and, above all, my image. I was his pride, not for what I was, but for what I symbolized. I learned early that, in that world, people don't love you. They love what you represent for them. It was in that setting that Emily arrived. She was hired by my father as a new maid, and at first, she should have been just another face inside the routine. But she wasn't. Emily had something I had never seen in the people around me: reality. She carried a kind of quiet, steady presence, like someone who had already faced real things, and didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I don't remember thinking about love in that moment. I remember feeling curiosity, and curiosity was the first sin. I started noticing her more than I should have. Noticing the way she moved without hurry, the attention she gave to small things, the way she seemed whole, even in a role the house treated as invisible. I can't explain when closeness began, because there wasn't a turning point. It was like water seeping into an empty space, little by little, until one day I realized I breathed better when she was near.
As this story unfolds, grant us your favor, stay within our circle, and keep watch, and tell us, where do you think this path will lead?
Over time, Emily became my refuge. Not because she did something extraordinary, but because her presence reminded me there was life outside the theater. I got used to looking for any reason to cross paths with her, to feeling a strange joy in simple moments, to realizing my heart reacted to things that, before, didn't even exist for me. I wasn't used to being truly seen, and when it happened, it felt like I had spent years holding my breath without noticing. Love didn't arrive like romance from pretty stories. It arrived like necessity, like that exact point where you understand, you can keep living the old way but you will die inside. I fought it at first, because I knew it was forbidden. I knew my father would never accept it. I knew everything I had could collapse. But the more I tried to go back to normal, the more I realized normal was exactly what made me sick. And then we got involved. In secret. Without the courage to call it by its name out loud, but with a silent certainty that only grew. I had never felt someone's touch as a promise of existence. I had never felt a gaze cut through me with so much truth. For the first time, I wasn't someone's daughter. I was only Jane, with a body, a heart, and a desire that didn't ask permission. The problem is that, in nobility, nothing stays secret for long. There are always eyes. Always ears. Always people living off vigilance disguised as morality. My father found out. And life, which was already rigid, became brutal. The shock wasn't only the anger. It was the way he turned me into a stranger in a matter of seconds. As if I stopped being his daughter the moment I chose to love. That love, to him, was dishonor. An affront. A scandal. It didn't matter if I was happy, if I was alive, if I had finally found meaning. What mattered was appearance. The last name. Reputation. The idea that my life belonged to his project, not to me. I was thrown out of the house. Thrown out like a shame that needed to be tossed away before it contaminated the salons. Like I was a mistake. And it's hard to describe what happens to a person when, suddenly, everything they know disappears. The ground doesn't vanish all at once. It starts crumbling from the inside. I left with few things, more confused than conscious, feeling a mix of fear and a strange kind of freedom. I was terrified, but at the same time, I was no longer under his control. I went to live with Emily, and there I understood what a real shock is. Her house was small. The silence was different. There was no luxury, no people serving, no constant feeling that the whole world was watching. What there was raw life. There was exhaustion, there were bills, there was work. There was the reality that love doesn't pay for bread, doesn't buy time, doesn't keep the cold away. I wasn't prepared. I, who had always been served, had to learn to serve myself. I, who had always lived with clean clothes and pleasant smells, began to feel the weight of sweat and dust. I, who had always had everything within reach, started to understand the value of every detail. And the worst part wasn't material poverty. It was realizing that, in that world, people looked at me in a way I had never known, with suspicion, with contempt, with that certainty that I didn't belong. I lost status. I lost protection. I lost the name, and I discovered the name was a wall. Without it, I was vulnerable. I also discovered, almost without realizing it, that vulnerability changes the way we love. Because there's no room left for pretending. That's how I became a maid too, not as a symbol, but out of necessity, and started working alongside Emily, sharing with her the same hours and the same exhaustion, as if life had decided to test us all the time just to see if we would give up. But we didn't give up. In the middle of that hard routine, there was something that kept us alive. The silent certainty that we were still us, even when the world seemed too small to hold what we felt. And whenever we could, we found each other to date, as if we were stealing minutes from the world just to keep them inside one another. As if each meeting were a secret protected with 2 hands, too precious to be wasted. Sometimes it was at the end of the day, when my body was already heavy, and still the longing felt bigger than the tiredness. Sometimes it was in short, almost reckless breaks, when all it took was a touch from my heart to remember why to keep going. Sometimes it was late at night, when the silence finally belonged to us, and all I wanted was to feel that Emily was there. Real, whole, close to me. I began to understand that our romance didn't live on grand moments, but on small insistences, on a kind of devotion repeated in details. The way she waited for me when I ran late. The way I looked for her even when I thought I couldn't take another day. The way our closeness turned reality into something bearable. I learned to recognize Emily not only as love, but as shelter. Because there was a way she looked at me that gave me courage back. As if she could see in me a strength I was still learning to build. And there was a way she touched me that made me believe I still had a future, even when I wasn't sure of anything. Little by little, I stopped feeling like I had to prove something. I only had to be with her. Our relationship became a secret place, where I could be vulnerable without fear, where I could admit my exhaustion, my insecurity, my longing for what was easy, without being judged for it. And the more we found each other, the more I realized it wasn't only desire, it was care. The care of seeking each other in a hurry, and at the same time, with the fear of drawing attention. The care of protecting each other without pulling away. The care of choosing each other every day, even when life tried to push us to opposite sides.
If this tale has pleased your heart, grant us your favor and stand beside us.
And if you wish to hear many more, join us and keep watch for what comes next.